2, 1. Boom. What's going on, Kim folks? It's your host, Keone G. I was called Yoni, but we ain't going by that no more. Anyway, welcome back to the Key to the City podcast. This is episode 20, man. We're moving right along. I appreciate everybody that's been tuning in, supporting your boy. Showing appreciate it, whether you like it, sharing, commenting, whatever you're doing to spread the word. You didn't have to do it, but you did, and I showed appreciate it. Thank you. I appreciate my last guest that we had on, Mr. Zach Wallace, the Hinds County Circuit Clerk. I apologize for the technical difficulties we experienced on that one, but we'll post him later this week, audio only. And, technology is a wonderful thing when it's working, but sometimes it don't work, and then you got to make other moves. So it's all good. We appreciate that, King, anyway. And just like we brought you Zach Wallace, we're going to continue to keep hitting you in your head with high-quality content, high-quality guests. And tonight is no different. We had a king on the last episode. This time we got a queen. And we continue to talk about voting. You know what I'm saying? This election coming up. Y'all know we got work ahead of us, things to do. And I got the boss lady with me today. She going to break everything down for us, what we need to know. She going to tell us how she fell into this role. And just what more that we can do to make our voices heard. You dig that? So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I want to introduce to you the Hinds County Election Commissioner for District 2, the Queen, Toni Johnson. What's going on, Queen?
Good evening. Listen, I appreciate that welcome, and I'm glad to be here. I appreciate the relaxed setting,
Yes.
And so I'm ready to get down to business and inform and educate our people.
Yes.
And I'm just glad to be here. Glad to you for reaching out, and of course having a platform of this nature for us to come on and share information. And I hope it's very informative to people that are listening. So kudos to you.
Well, thank you. And my audience is pretty smart. I'm sure they're gonna be ready, open ears to hear the information and gems that you're gonna drop on us today. So once again, thank you for joining us. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with Key to the City. So for those that don't know you, give us a little information on your background, where you're from, where you attended school, things like that.
Absolutely. So first I would like to say I'm born and raised here in Jackson, Mississippi, from the west side of Jackson. The west side is the best side. I know people have
west side
church they claim, south, north, but I was born and raised off of Buena Vista, on Buena Vista, off of Robinson Road. I attended Jim Hill, Bailey Magnet. So the west side runs through my blood completely. That side of town helped raise me. So after I graduated high school, I attended Belhaven here locally. I didn't leave. Just felt the passion and need to just stick around. And give back and to contribute to the people that helped raise me. And I think it's paying off. I have roots in Bolton, Mississippi. My father's side of the family is from Bolton. He was the first Black county patrolman. So back in the day, before you had sheriff's deputies, there were like county patrolmen that patrolled the rural area that was unincorporated. And so back in the 70s, he was the first Black person to fill that position. So I kind of fell into it, I think, by blood. I loved history and English in high school. Those were some of my favorite subjects. I did mock trial. And so I got into politics because A, I think I'm relatable, I'm good at it. But B, I understand the power of policy. So we complain about a lot of stuff. We talk about this, we talk about that. But the key to that is having policy that makes our lives better. Policy as in voting laws, policy as in tax laws, all of that is policy. So that's the way you effectively change the situation that we complain about. It's having some key people that look like you that understand the struggle at the table to change those policies.
Facts. What was your major at Belhaven?
So that's interesting. I was talking about my dad. He old school. So he said, look, you better go to school and major in something that can make you some money. I was good with numbers. So I was a business major with finance, and then I switched to political science. So I did the numbers, I worked for the Department of Revenue, but my passion was always policy, mock trial. And so I worked on campaigns, city of Jackson, so county races and state races. And one day, as I was building myself, I took a leap of faith. I was like, Lord, this is what I want to do. This is what I'm good at. I'm just going to trust you. quit my job, my 8 to 5 at that time, and said, "Hey, I want to work full time in running campaigns because there's an election here in Mississippi every year. Somebody running for something." And that's what I did, and hadn't looked back since. So that's how I got here. I'm a mother of one son, a little king, who's in the 4th grade, and I'm raising him. He has been raised around the political arena, from neighborhood meetings to campaigns. So he probably been knocking on doors since he been 2. So if he chooses to go down that path, good for him. If not, I'm gonna support him either way.
You seem like you were like a one of the serious children coming up. Did you play a lot, or were you about your business focused?
Nah, well in the classroom, yes, but I was hell on the other side. I got suspended. I fought because I was outspoken. I always felt like if somebody did something, I'm like that now. We're not gonna go back and forth. We just gonna square up. And so that side kind of got me in trouble sometimes. So yeah, I was good in the classroom, but I would get into a little trouble. Just being curious. But I always spoke up, and I always kind of led from the front, being outspoken and challenging teachers, policies, and even people in leadership then. So yeah.
Do you teach your son to do the same? Like question things?
I absolutely do. We are working on that. He's a little more introvert. I think he get that from his dad. But we're working on that. It's like you got to speak up and speak out, because if not, people will run over you. So yeah.
Facts. My pops told me that a long time ago, man. It always stuck with me. How does one, like, what was your path to election commissioner? I'm sure that wasn't your first position. And
it actually was.
What?
This is the first position that I ever ran for, and I was very fortunate to win the first time around. But it was a knockdown, drag out, and I'll get to the elements of that. So I've always been an advocate for voting, and I get that from my father. When I was 18, he retired from the sheriff department. He walked me down to the circuit clerk's office. We filled out our application, and I have voted in every election since I turned 18. So Medgar Evers is one of my favorite people of all time in history. And one of his quotes that I always use is, "Our only hope is to control the vote." Forget all that posting, forget all that talking. You control the policies and what goes on when you elect the right people to put them at the table, period, point blank. That's what I believe in, and that's what I stand for. So when I started voting, I started noticing issues at the polls, like people's name being left out the book, people not being trained. And so I'm like, why is it every time I go to vote, we keep having the same problems? So I was like, whose responsibility is it to make sure these problems don't happen? Everybody wanted to throw it on the circuit clerk. At the time, it wasn't Zach. Zach is my homie. It was Miss Dunn, I believe. Yeah. She was the person that served the longest. And I'm like, well, no. I started digging. When I have questions, I read and I interpret policy, and I read some more. I ran up on the election commissioners. Well, they work closely with the clerks. They don't do the same thing. They actually run the elections. They hire the poll workers. We do training. We make sure that the machines are running correctly. We order the ballots. I don't know if you remember several years ago back in Hinds County, there was a ballot shortage at one particular precinct. All of that falls on the election commissioners. And so with me having a taste for policy and politics, I decided what better way to correct these issues than running for something and correcting the problem. And so I want to shout out all of my young people, even older people, that's what you do. When you see issues going on, other than talking about it and making noise, that's cool. But if you really want to be a change advocate, dig off into that and find out what you can do if it's running for office, if it's challenging the policies in place to change it. So at 28, 29, I decided, against my parents' will, they're like, you finna run for office? Why? What? You're a single parent, you got a son, this and that, and I'm a woman. I'm a Black woman. We just celebrated the 100-year anniversary of the 19th Amendment. The 19th Amendment gave women the right to vote.
Oh, right.
And so we just have the right to vote, let alone it's not many of us that run for office and actually hold elected positions. I was like, they were like, you ain't 30 yet, you've never run. Who put you in? Nobody put me in. I saw what was going on and I decided to run. I put in a lot of hard work, End up going to a runoff and shoot in November 2016, became the youngest election commissioner in Hinds County to take that position. Decided to run for supervisor in between that, was unsuccessful. And so I came back to the commission. They work hand in hand. And so this time we're unopposed. We'll be going in for another 4 years with no opponent. So keep grinding, keep doing the work. And so that's what got me to the point I am at now as far as election commissioner. So hadn't always been easy. It won't be easy. Being in Black and being in politics, sometimes we fight amongst ourselves instead of trying to look at the overall goal. So I would definitely speak to that. We've had those issues, but you just got to be persistent. You're going to have to tell me no 10, 11, 12 times before me to move on and leave you alone. And particularly if I know there is some law or a code or something legally to back me up. And that's why I tell people, read and know the law for yourself, especially whatever field you're in, because people will try you. And I tell Black people, the same laws that would apply for them apply for us, good and bad. So don't let them disproportionate and only work for them and not apply for us when it's something beneficial. Can't let that happen. And so a lot of times that will make you a target. I got some people that look like me saying, well, you know what? They say you're doing too much. I'm like, who is they? And if what I'm doing is right and it's legal, we're going to keep moving forward.
Facts. Yep. I'm glad you brought up the 19th Amendment. I was actually going to say this question towards the end, but I might as well go and get it out the way. We always hear about how our people, our ancestors went through so much just for us to have that right to vote, and to have our voices heard. Do you still believe that, and I'm only assuming this, that you do as an election commissioner, do you still believe that voting is the most effective way to create change in America?
I do. I believe, I don't believe that's the only effective way. Right. Still believe it's at the top because they, as you see now, they fight us so hard for us not to be able to do it. Because they know it's as simple as if we can rally together and stick with good numbers and move in positive numbers, and we can move some things. Mississippi has one of the highest rates of Black elected officials here across the country. If you do the research, we've got more Black elected officials here in Mississippi than anywhere. Now, I know we still have our struggles, but that tells you something, that we can organize in the right way. We can elect the right people and people of color. It's just a matter of when you get in there, what you do. I still believe that, but I also, in my full-time job, I work with education policy. And that's a lot of behind-the-scenes research, tedious work. But we understand if we can get laws passed to help make education better and easier, then that's what matters. And so that, like I said again, you can't do that without having the right people elected and working with the people that actually pass the laws. Right.
Yeah. Well, I know that some of my peers and people I associated with, the 2016 election kind of left a bad taste in their mouth as far as voting in general. They feel like the man can just steal the election if they want to. So what's the point of me even, what do you say to people that think like that?
Well, I say look at the war instead of a small battle, okay? Because we have to do things in steps and increments. And I'll be the first to say it's long suffering. Policy, politics, and change is not a popcorn solution. And I think us as millennials, man, we got to just be patient. I know people say that, but it's really taught and demonstrated in politics and when you're trying to advocate for change. You have to be persistent. You got to keep the faith, and don't just let one small event, which is the battle, deter you from the war or the overall progress. I mean, the civil rights movement didn't happen in 4 years. The Montgomery bus boycott lasted over a year. And so I think that we get impatient quickly. I do it sometimes, and we give up too easily. We just got to stick with these things and keep moving in the right direction. So I would tell them, focus on the war and not a battle. Just keep going. We have a second chance to redeem ourselves from 2016.
Right. And you said they are throwing out all the stops to try to keep us from voting. I'm not a political scholar, but I try to keep up with it. What's the issue around the mail-in ballot? issues?
So this is the thing with the mail-in ballot. So Mississippi, we don't have early voting. In some states, you get a time period, let's say 30 days.
Mm-hmm.
In that time period, it don't matter if you cripple, it doesn't matter if you black, white, it doesn't matter if you're gonna be in town on election day. That particular state allows you to just cast your ballot for election day by mail and be done with it. A lot of people with the Republican Party, I'm just be honest, conservative Republicans feel like that's a way that people can cheat. Well, any system you can cheat if you got the right people in place. But statistics show out of millions of ballots, there's only maybe 400 or 500 they have shown that have been, tampered with. So most of the people that vote are honest. We as election officials, myself, Mr. Wallace, across the nation, across the state, we take our job very seriously. We are trained. We take an oath. So when we're handling and dealing with, with the ballots and things like that, we're going to follow the law and make sure that we're doing everything by the book. So I think that's a narrative they throw out there. When we talked about 2016, we've got to be careful about the influence, what we see on social media and what we hear and what we listen to. Because believe it or not, all of that plays a role into how we think and the things that we do. We got to hear from the right people that look like us, that are representing us and doing a good job. Mail-in voting, you mail your bills in, you mail in applications, your ballot isn't any different. You just got to trust the system. And for the people that try things, there are consequences for those. But for overall, mailing in your absentee ballots, I would say that system is pretty soundproof.
So what is it that Trump is trying to do? He's trying to, like with the post office in regards to
voting.
Right,
he is basically trying to stop mail-in voting during this pandemic. In the African American community, I know here in Hinds County, we are pushing our African American people to get to the polls through mail. Instead of exposing yourself to a possibility of COVID-19 or dealing with other things, we are pushing people for the first time in a long time to vote by mail, vote absentee. And he's aware of it. He and his cronies, I'm gonna put it like that, they are aware of what we're trying to do, and we're organized. So the better way to throw a monkey wrench in it, okay, you telling everybody to vote against me by mail, let me just stop the mail from running. Let me just shut off more postal locations or make it harder so you have to drive around town in hopes that you'll get frustrated or give up and just say, I ain't gonna worry about it. And so that's what he's trying to do. I ain't that old, but I've never in the history heard of any president trying to obstruct the polling locations or close down the postal system less than 90 days before a federal election.
Facts.
Couple weeks ago, he threw out, I did an interview about he was going to postpone the election. Well, you don't have the authority to do that. That would take an act of Congress. Right. So there was some buzz about, he can't do it. So all those tactics are things that they do to try to throw us off. That's what I said. We got to be careful of what we listen to, what we believe, and where the information is coming from.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I just saw a post right there. Mr. Wesley say, He don't know how you feel about trusting the system, which is kind of piggyback on what I asked you earlier. Mm-hmm. And like I say, he's in my demographic and peers that I'm around. And some of the reasons why they're saying that, because people that are in the same position as you, such as Jones County Election Commissioner Gail Welch, she put out a statement that says the blacks are organizing and having all kind of events. Everybody else should vote. First of all, who is everybody else and how are they separate from the blacks? But when you got people that think like that, that's kind of like over the price. What do you say about that?
So the first thing I'll say is there's an association of election commissioners across the state. Gail Welch, unfortunately, is a part of that association because she is an election commissioner. I wrote out to our president, who is a black gentleman out of Madison County. I said, hey, these statements are racist. We denounced them. We need for you to put out a statement saying that we don't support this as a body. Didn't hear anything from him. The second thing I would say to that, if you know people in Jones County that have lived there for over 2 years and that would like to get involved in this process. I don't think Gail Welch had an opponent this time, but guess what? She will in the next 3 years. I would say that we need to call on our networks and people that live in that area, get them mobilized, educate them on what it is they can do, run against her next time, and put her out of office, because we do not need people with that mindset handling your votes, handling the election process, period, point blank. And so, unfortunately, it happened and came out after the qualifying deadline. And so that's why I tell people, we as Black folks, we don't know because we have lack of knowledge and we don't read. We got to be up on our deadlines, on policies, on qualifications, because sometimes we can get beat on simple things because we just don't know. And so I would tell somebody now, which I have said, your opportunity now is to start mobilizing in Jones County. So in 3 years, because we have staggered terms, some of us serve 3, some of us serve 4. There shouldn't be a Gail Welch in that particular season. Enough is enough. Yeah. And so I tell people, watch them closely. People on election day, observers are working for certain campaigns. You have every right to sit in and see what's going on, even before election day. My office, Zach's office, we're open book. A lot of this stuff is open to the public because we are a governing body. Minutes, laws, how we spend our money. You just got to come down there and ask the right questions and ask to see things.
We need to be proactive.
I would say to Mr. Wesley, come on down. I mean, call us on our bluff or put our money where our mouth is and come look, come see, come ask questions, get copies of things, and know how the process works. I would say be patient. You want to speak with me, set up an appointment. But look, these elected officials, these public entities, we work for you all. Y'all tax dollars pay us. So a lot of this stuff people try to not be inclusive about. They're breaking the law. That's not the case. Come on down and see. That goes from city council, your county offices, as well as state offices, your legislators. These things are public information, and I just encourage people to use their platforms like yours to inquire so they'll know.
Yeah, we just need to be more proactive as citizens, basically.
We need to be more proactive, man. When we want a job or we trying to do something, we go at it full force. So I would say apply that same attitude when it comes to government locally here.
And outside of the current administration doing what they can to block votes, we also have to maneuver around the pandemic, COVID-19. What are some things that voters should be aware of voting during this time, during this season, election season?
I would say the first thing, because most of our seasoned voters and poll workers are older, they're in that category where they're kind of more susceptible to get COVID if they have underlying conditions and they're older. I would encourage them to vote by absentee. And I want to explain because my mom is over 65. And I assumed that she knew this, and she did. We had a conversation yesterday. If you vote absentee, that doesn't mean just by mail. You can come down to Mr. Wallace's office during the day between 8 to 5 and on some Saturdays and vote early then. You don't have to mail it in. You can come do it during that process. If you're 65 years of age or older, if you got a temporary disability, you're going to be out of town, call Mr. Wallace and say, hey, what conditions do I meet to come down here and vote early? And you can actually do it in person. You don't have to sit at home and mail it. Now, I'll say that coming down is still not as hectic and you won't be exposed to as many people as you would on election day because you don't have as many people coming in and out of his office. So my mom didn't know that. She thought, I thought vote absentee meant only by mail. I said, no, ma'am, you can come and vote early in person at the clerk's office as well. So I want people to understand that. If you can't get out the car, call in. They will come out to assist you. And so that's a 45-day window, which we can capitalize on getting thousands of votes. In 2008, when President Barack Obama was winning the office, Zach and I pulled the numbers. There were over 7,000 absentee ballots cast here in Hinds County. Now, we didn't have a pandemic, but over 7,000 people either voted by mail, where they called and request the ballot, they mailed it back in, or they came down in person and voted between that 45-day period before the actual election day.
So we need to have that same energy.
Yeah, we need that same energy, if not more, because we got more at stake. We have more at stake. You all can do that. I want to talk to people that think they have disenfranchising crimes, a marijuana charge, assault charge, or things like that. Unfortunately, Mississippi is a state that have not updated these laws since 2009. And these are the crimes that if you've been convicted of them, you are not eligible to vote. And I want to read them off really quickly.
Okay.
But I also want to let people know, if you don't hear anything that I'm reading, and I can send you this this flyer. It's on my social media handles that you can repost. If you're not convicted of one of these crimes, you can register to vote. Arson, armed robbery, bigamy, bribery, embezzlement, extortion, felony bad check, felony shoplifting. Please take note that if I don't say felony in front of it, it just means if you're convicted of it. And if you've been convicted of a shoplifting charge and it's not a felony charge, you can still vote. Forgery, larceny, murder. I want to clarify that. That's murder, not manslaughter. Obtaining money or goods under false pretenses, perjury, rape, receiving stolen property, robbery, theft, timber larceny, unlawful taking of a motor vehicle, statutory rape, carjacking, larceny under lease or rental agreement. If you have been convicted of any of those, you can't vote. However, if your charge was non-adjudicated or if you had it expunged, come on down and get your votes back. Get your rights to vote back. You can do that as well.
Man, I'm glad you brought that up. You able to see your graphic up there that I got there?
Yeah, I can see it.
So y'all take a look at that. Those that are watching. Shanta, she's actually in Hinds County. So you see that question there?
But these disenfranchising crimes, are you all planning a voter awareness campaign in Jones County? I believe there may be some other entities. If she shoots you an inbox with her contact info, I can possibly link her to some people that may be, I know that are doing some work in those areas in Jones County.
Okay. Anything we need to know about the types of machines that are being used or polling locations?
We here in Hinds County use paper ballots. It's just a checks and balance. It's a computer system with a memory stick as well as a paper ballot. So if the computer goes down, you got the paper ballots. If the paper ballots catch a fire, you got the media stick. It's just a better checks and balance to make sure that people are being accountable and to make sure ain't no funny stuff going on. I want to talk about what we'll be looking like if you decide to vote in person. I want people to understand that we're prepared. I don't want you to be scared. Everybody's going to have on PPE. If you don't have a mask, we will provide one for you. We'll have sanitizer, wipes, Lysol spray. We're going to make sure that people are spaced out. And we're going to keep no more than probably 10 to 12 people at one time in the precincts. And that's just to maintain the CDC guidelines. We don't want to bunch everybody up. I am not disenfranchising or trying to suppress the vote. I'm not that person. But we got to keep people separated just for their health. Unfortunately, the legislators of the state of Mississippi did not make it easier to vote by mail during this pandemic. They could have just said, hey, during that 45-day period, anybody for any reason can go down there and cast a ballot or mail in. They didn't do that. They put stipulations on it. Voter suppression. But we got to be persistent and use platforms like this to tell people. If you mail your ballot in, and I'm sure Mr. Wallace said it, some of them have to be either notarized or witnessed in order for it to count when you mail it back in. Like I said, we get beat on the details sometimes, the small things. You can't, I saw some float around social media said you can get your ballot and just walk it to the precinct. False. The same way you get that ballot is how you have to return it. If you call and request it to be mailed to you, you got to mail it back. If you go down to the clerk's office during that 45-day period to vote in person early, you got to cast that ballot there. You can't take it with you. And so these are things that we got to understand and educate our folks on, so we'll do it the right way. And it's a lot. They intentionally designed this to be confusing, so we'll just say, man, that's too much. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
We can't do that. We can't do that. We got to condition ourselves to shoot. Keep going, man. Just keep going. Bring you a chair. Bring you a bottle of water. If you have to wait outside, I want people to be very patient. You got to bring your valid ID. And I want to pinpoint this really quickly. as we're training, I'm telling my pole manager, I've heard people complain about this, and I want people to know I hear you. I've observed it, and I'm correcting this. Some pole managers look at people's IDs, right? I might have moved to Texas 2 years ago and came back this year, living in Hines County, registered to vote. Well, my ID might have a Texas address. The poll worker is not supposed to be looking at your address. They only look at your face. And if they say, well, your address is this, I want people to give us a call. It's going to be 601-968-6555. One Voice has a voter protection line, and I can get you that information too if you make it find it on their page. That's against the law. So I want people to be very careful with that, because I've had complaints over the years since I've been in office, and I'm going to tell my poll managers that, hey, if we find that you're doing that, I'm gonna have to remove you immediately, like out of there, because you can't do that. That is illegal, and I want voters to be aware. They're only supposed to be looking at your picture, not your address. When you register to vote, you sign that form and say, hey, this information is accurate and true. This is where I live. This is my address. And so when you go to vote, you show your ID. That should be it. They shouldn't be questioning you about your address, even if it's different. Only your picture. And you shouldn't be required to remove your mask, because we under a mandate now. You got to wear your mask. And so when you go in there, ain't nobody should be saying, move, take it off. No, leave your mask on.
Woo, that's good information.
Yeah.
And also, you mentioned that there's a need for poll workers as well, right?
There is a need for poll workers. We are almost to capacity, but we need a few more. We need a few more now. We need a few more. The pandemic pay is $125. They're starting out. You get an extra $20 because you will have to be trained by state law to be a poll worker. You've got to have a training within the last 12 months prior to the election. So what we'll be doing is giving you the basic rundown on election laws, what to look for, and fair warning, this is a long day, but guess what? You're going to be chilling 6 a.m. to about 8 p.m. Depending on where you know, if your precinct is a big one, but typically during a presidential election, everybody is slammed. So it's not going to be in and out. But you're going to be comfortable. You're going to have somewhere to sit. You're not going to be in the weather. And most importantly, you get to sit there and be nosy, as I tell people, and see what's going on. You're going to be working, but you get to see what's going on. So if you feel like it's something shady going on, or some other workers aren't doing what they're supposed to do, that's your opportunity to, say, hey, I think this needs to be addressed, or something's going on. I got a question. Don't be afraid to ask questions about what's going on, and we can say, well, they're correct or they're wrong. And customer service. Voting shouldn't be hard. People shouldn't have no attitude, which I tell them that, look, don't be hassling these people when they come in here to vote. This should be a pleasant in and out experience. And if you don't want to do that or work with the public, then you shouldn't be here. So that's we looking for those poll workers. Give us a call. We have people say, well, I want to go here. I'm like, look, now you can't be selective in where you go. We got 108 precincts from Raymond, Jackson, Utica, Bolton, Edwards, Clinton, Pocahontas, Learned. Most of the people that live in the rural area, they typically work in the rural area. And people in the Jackson area and Clinton area, we will try to, put you in those areas that are near to you.
Y'all have any availability, man? Y'all take advantage of that. Like you said, they almost at capacity, but try to get in there. Get in where you fit in. Big election coming up. We already know that. We spoke about that. It just seemed like a lot of foolishness going on with it. What's your thoughts first on, before I get into Biden and Kamala Harris, what's your thoughts on Kanye West, man? Are you giving him a mental therapy pass like everybody else? Or
he don't get a pass. He don't get a complete pass. But we do have to acknowledge that mental illness is real in the Black community. We can't just sit him in the corner and say he always been like that. I'm going to blame 80% of it over mental illness. But I do feel like there's a percentage that since he made it famous, he got money, he feels like that he can say and do anything. So that's not okay. The boy wasn't raised like that. His mom, she was a college professor. So I think sometimes we lose touch with with reality. And so I'm gonna give him 80% mental illness, 20% he know better than that. He gonna have to take responsibility for that. When he come back down and get back regulated on his meds, he needs to reevaluate that.
Do you think he has the power to divide the black vote?
I don't, but I think his words and social media resharing things and people and us entertaining it has a small fraction to confuse us even more. As I said earlier, you got to watch those resources, the influence, who we listening to, and how. So just even entertaining the conversation, I think sometimes can cause confusion among us. Like he didn't even get all the signatures to qualify.
Right.
And so we shouldn't even be talking about Kanye because he ain't even an official, legitimate candidate. But because of his profile and who he's married to and all that, he's the type of conversation. So it needs to be positive media that he's perpetuating instead of what he's doing.
Right.
Yeah.
Key to the City podcast. We got the Queen Toni Johnson in the city with us. Biden recently announced that Kamala Harris is gonna be his running mate. I ain't gonna front. During the Democratic nominations, I said I wasn't gonna vote for. I wasn't necessarily gonna vote for Biden either. I was gonna vote for Yang. I like Yang, but I didn't like her track record. I don't like Biden's track record when it comes to incarceration of black males and their votes and things with that, and her record as a prosecutor. But she was doing her job, whatever the case may be. But how do you feel about her as his selection? And do you think that people who are in favor of getting rid of Trump should just suck it up and do what they got to do and vote for the ticket?
So I'm going to just embrace all of that. But I'm going to start by pivoting to one of my mentors. I've also done a lot of leadership workshops when it comes to policy advocating. So Derek Johnson, the CEO of NAACP, he always says in some of his lectures, we get tied up sometimes too much in political parties. The parties are your vehicles to get to where you need to go. Okay. So with that being said, the Democratic policies and values, they align more with me as an African-American black woman. So I don't see totally. I see Joe Biden and I see Kamala, but what I see is the Democrats in this car that are driving, they got the better car, the better warranty, the better tires than what the Republicans have. And so we as black people, and I'm glad you addressed it, we like to fall in love with candidates. We want them to hold our hand. We want them to have the picture perfect story. We want them to have everything right, and we don't got everything right. Right. The other side, they can have the most unqualified candidate. They throw a little paint on them, put a red tie, they stick to their message, and they galvanize and they ride all the way off into the sunset. We as black folks got to get off Kamala past record as a prosecutor. She was doing her job. We got to get off some of Biden's policies, but we got to hold them accountable by saying, hey, if you want our black vote, we need X, Y, Z when you get in office, and we're going to hold you accountable. That's how you do that. It's not about playing chess, it's about playing checkers. And I think a great indicator of Biden having the African-American ear was back in February. Biden ended up at Tougaloo. If we do the history and work backwards, our congressman, the only Democrat that's been in office for 20-something years, who's done a great job. I don't want to hear people on here hollering about Ben ain't did nothing. You will have to know the legislative body of government, how things work. Like when I run elections, I'm not going to be able to directly put a check in your hand. But what I can do is make sure that your vote going to count. I can make sure more African-American people work the polls that look like us to affect those changes. And so people sometimes, I think, want to see popcorn results and want to say, well, I ain't seen nothing he did. Well, if you ride on a highway and the roads repaved, those are federal dollars or federal money that he voted for as a congressional member to make sure they came down. If you getting unemployment from the CARES Act, he voted in their support on the federal level, and then it came down the pipeline. So we gotta stop trying to woo and fall in love with a candidate and figure out which party has the best vehicle to get us to where we need to go. And so if Biden is coming to Mississippi, he's been at Tougaloo, then that's a good indicator that he's having conversations with not only black leaders, but black leaders from Mississippi who can directly make some changes. So I want people to be aware of that and pay attention to that. Even though you may not have went to the rally, it was still early in the game. We had some other contenders. With him being coming to Mississippi, that must mean he's having some conversation with Congressman Thompson. And that should be a key indicator right there that if he's in, Mississippi should be in a good place. Look at our federal judges back when Obama was in. I'm going to tie this back to the Congress. We got Judge James Graves, who was nominated. Congressman Thompson, Barack Obama, your presidents put your federal Judge Carlton Reeves. President Obama nominated him straight out of Jackson, Mississippi. He's a federal judge. Those are lifetime appointments. So that's the vehicle that you look at and what's happening here locally on a national level to see, okay, this is somebody that I need to look into and get in touch with these people and say, hey, we want our voices to be heard. We want to know what policy or, what you want to look at going forward or what you're going to do that comes down the pipeline to affect me. So that's my spiel on Kamala, Joe Biden. I'm excited it was a black woman. I knew we had an old white man. So I'm like, shoot, I'm Joe. I don't need another old white man. Right, we got an old white man in office now. I mean, what's wrong with black women being on the ticket? We're mothers. We multitask. We work. We run households. We do homework. We've always done the work. We just hadn't had the platform or got the acknowledgement. So it's not a pass because she's a black woman. It's a pass because she's put in the work. And trust me, we're scrutinized more than men are. Like, when we run for office, they want to know who we dated, who our ex-husband was. They do all of that. Now, when y'all run, it's like, oh.
Grab him by the coochie.
He got on nice Jordans.
Oh.
And so that's my spill on that. So, like, they put us through a ringer more so than they do men. So, let us make it. We've done the work. We're qualified. And that's for anybody. And so if people are qualified, they want to run, let them run. And I think we as the black community, instead of we having 20 or 30 people running for one job, let's get behind the right person, make our issues heard, and push them to the next level. Or if not, it's time for them to come out of office.
Facts.
And we know better more to how to do that than we do how to put them in there. Because we we consistently changing. So y'all know how to make it work. I think it should work for a better solution though.
Man. You are so on point, Queen, and just full of so much knowledge and passion, man. Wow. I could talk to you all day about this.
But I respect your differences, though. Like, I'm not going to argue with people, and I don't, on social media over if you supported Yang or Elizabeth Warren or Biden. Like I said, at the end of the day, we got Biden now, and this is the best tool to get us to where we need to go. We know what we have isn't working. And I can say that because they say election commissions are bipartisan, which we are. We run for both parties. But we can declare, when I run for office, I put a Democrat by my name. And so as a Democrat, I can effectively run both sides. I talk to Republicans just like I talk to you. I will make sure they have the respect and the same rights just like I do Democrats. But I make people know I'm a Democrat. These are my values. The policies line up with Democrats. But I'm going to give you the respect that you deserve until you don't give me the respect I deserve. And then, we just...
See, I need to get like you. Because I be ready to slap something. You hear me?
I don't be ready to slap right away. And see, that's part of that Malcolm X patience, that movement. You got to be long suffering. It's a method to it. And I'm going to be honest, I didn't get like this overnight. Like I said, I fought in high school. Because I was like, we ain't going to talk about it. We're going to just handle this. But it's growth, maturity, looking at the long goal. And then, like I said, I have a fourth grader. So, you got to, they watch whether they say that or not. So it just, that patience come with it.
Facts. What he saying? As soon as Biden announced his running mate, the media had all kinds of negative history to bring forward.
They did.
Calling her hoes and everything. She slept her way
nasty.
up. Like,
really?
Come on.
Really? Man, you got daughters and nieces and cousins out here, and how would y'all feel if they talking about your folks like that?
Right.
But there's no respect. They've gone too far. The
Mm-hmm.
racism at an all-time high. So I mean, we can't be continued to be divided among us. We got to stick together. You might not like us. We just got to get their respect and keep it pushing.
Right. Last question for you. I done had you damn near an hour. Do you see yourself running for a high office?
So the politically correct answer is, I'm an election commissioner. My constituents elected me to be that. Right now, I'm going to be the best election commissioner that I can be. And I can't speculate on that. However, if God has a better plan or the universe has a better plan for me, I'm going to walk in my calling. So I'll put it at that.
Amen. And how can my audience follow you, find out more information about voting? What's the best links?
Best thing for me, Facebook is Toni Johnson. We do have a Hinds County Election Commission Facebook page. My Instagram is private if you request me, because I do work in other avenues, and you have some trolls sometimes, but I don't mind sharing information. Is Policy and Pumps. That's Twitter as well. Y'all can call me directly at the office 601-968-6555, or shoot me a text message 769-257-2663. All of our sample ballots of who will be on the ballot this time, your polling locations, Hinds County website, click on the Election Commission, our meeting agendas, our meeting dates that are open to the public, those are listed as well. So come holler at us. Or you can join by phone during COVID, so you ain't got to come down and hear what's going on.
Y'all hear that, Ken, folks? Y'all reach out. Any final words that we need to know? Anything?
We need to vote like our life depended on it. Don't say your vote don't count. It will count. I want people, if they haven't voted in a while, don't be shamed. You ain't got to tell nobody. Call us. Make sure that you're still active on the roads and know where your polling location is. It's very important. Don't wait until election day or right before and say, I don't remember where I vote. I don't know if I'm still using my grandmama address or did I update it. No excuses. Call us now to make sure that you're an active voter. If you hadn't registered, register. If you got purged for not voting, re-register. Get all of that straight. Get an election day plan before election. Don't wait till the last minute. If you have any problems, give us a holler. But be patient and be persistent, man. Like y'all stand in line for Jordan sometime, or I set my alarm for certain sales. Just gotta be patient. It's free. It don't cost nothing. Yeah. Just vote.
Let's go get it, people. Y'all go out, support this queen, support yourselves by voting. Let's make some change out here. And let's do it big, man, this election season, and continue on, because the generations behind us are watching. And 9 times out of 10, they're going to follow in our footsteps. So let's do the right thing this season. I want to thank everybody that tuned in and that was tuned in to my guest, the Hinds County Election Commissioner for District 2, the Queen Toni Johnson. I just want you to know that I applaud you. I support you. I thank you for the confidence, the courage, the don't give a damnness that you present to get the job
but
done.
I give a lot of them.
I know, but you're not gonna take no for an answer when it's something you're trying to accomplish, is what I mean. So we appreciate that. Anything that Key to the City can do to help push your initiatives or anything, you just reach out. I'm an inbox or phone call away. And
I want to invite you down before the election to do a walkthrough of our office. If you would, you mask up. It can be on a Saturday. We have some of our training for our poll workers starting next week. Sometimes people think voting is scary. Before the pandemic, I did a lot of mock elections myself. That we went into the schools, took the machines, and showed them how to use them. I would love for you to come out, bring your equipment, give a first-hand insight on how the machines look, and come back and share to people, go live, so they'll say, look, this is what it is. No need to be intimidated. And let people know, man, ahead of time. We study for tests, we study for the bar exam, we practice driving, let's practice how to vote.
Right. I would do that. I'm going to definitely reach out. Let's set something up.
Okay.
That'll be awesome. Yes, sir. Thank you so much again. Keep to the City podcast.
Me.
This was episode 20, Black Votes Matter, with the Queen, Toni Johnson. I appreciate everybody that joined us. We'll see y'all next week. Oh, no, we'll see y'all Friday. I got Mike Espy in the building. So
okay.
I'm trying to do a big right here. So
Black votes matter, black elected officials matter. I heard
that's right. You heard. So peace, love, and blessings to everybody. I love y'all. We out. Thank you, Queen.